Today we're going to be adding snow to our Northern Lights picture. So we are going to be using white paint today since we're making snow, and we're going to start off with a nice big brush so that we can create the snowy ground. Now basically the snowy ground is just going to be kind of a straight line across the paper, or maybe a slightly hilly curved line. That's going to be up to you. So I'm just going to gently clean my brush in the water to make sure I get off any old paint, wipe off the excess, and then I'm going to dip this large brush into a little bit of white paint. Now I have to decide where I want my horizon line to go. The horizon line is the line where the ground touches the sky. And I think I want mine right here, right below my Northern Lights. I don't want to cover those up. Now after you have your horizon line, you're going to fill in all the space below with white paint. So I'm using nice, smooth brush strokes. And if my brush is starting to get dried out, it's going to have kind of a scratchy look, and I don't want that for this project. I want my snow to look nice and smooth, just like a snowy hill in real life. So I'm adding water to my paint to smooth it out. The water does make the paint a little bit more transparent. That means you can kind of see through it. So if you think that your paint is too transparent, just get a little bit more white paint from the paint palette. So I'm just going to continue using white paint and water to create a smooth, snowy hill. Now my hill is just about finished. I've used really nice, smooth, horizontal brush strokes so that it looks like a realistic hill. So now I'm done with this brush. I'm going to put it away. Now it's time for kind of an interesting painting tool. We're actually going to be using a toothbrush to create some snowflakes in the sky. So to do this, I'm going to take my toothbrush, and I do not need a lot of white paint. I'm just going to barely dip the edge of my toothbrush into that paint. And you can see I really don't have a lot of globby paint on there. I just barely dipped my bristles. Then I'm going to be using my thumb to flick the paint onto my paper. Now this can be messy if you're not careful, so be very aware when you're flicking that your brush is close to the paper and away from your clothes and your neighbor. So I'm just going to take my thumb and kind of rub it across the bristles like so. So I'm holding it in one hand and then using my other hand to flick the paint. And it's going to create some little, it kind of looks like snowflakes, maybe looks like a little bit like stars. I'm going to get just a tiny bit more. Not too much, I don't want a glob. I'll just flick a few more. A little bit goes a long way. You don't want too much of this white paint because you don't want to take away from your beautiful Northern Lights that we made. We want a balance of just a little bit of white paint to not overtake our sky. When my stars are done, I get to add the final detail, which is my polar bear portrait. Now we drew our polar bear on the edge of a paper so that it has a corner down here. Make sure that you match up this corner with whatever corner of your art project you chose. Some people had a right-hand corner, some people maybe have a left-hand corner. Mine's on the right. Now I'm going to take some glue, and I only need a tiny line of glue around the edge. Not too much, because I don't want this glue to be oozing out from around the sides of my polar bear. And I'm going to carefully flip it over, line it up with the corner, and then press it down. So now I have my polar bear portrait in the foreground. It does cover up part of my hill and part of my sky, but that's okay. That was all part of the plan. I'm pressing down gently, and I'm being careful not to get my hands in any wet paint because it probably hasn't dried yet. After I've pressed down my polar bear portrait, I'm going to leave my beautiful art project to dry.